Hey fangirls and boys, this is Natalie and you're watching Lotta Love. And in today's video, I have a very exciting video. This is a try on first impressions of a bunch of new NYX products I went to the NYX store over the weekend, and if you've never been to a NYX store, it is an amazing experience. It's like a fun makeup store with like kind of like a professional feel to it, but also just like a fun girly feel to it. It's really experienced so many different, options and colors and products. And, some things are a little more expensive, but some you can get a lot of product for your money. So NYX store is really awesome, and I got a few things. I got the new Swear By It palette. So I do a full eye look with this. So you will see how it goes and my thoughts and what have you on the Swear By It palette. I also have these foiled pigments, and I also have this Shimmer Down Lip Veil. It's like a lip topper that's like a light gloss. And I have a couple of other things that I play with in this video. So if you are a fan of NYX products and you are interested in seeing how I got this look and what I think of these new NYX products, then keep on watching. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and get started. I have already primed my eyelids with the NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in Milk, and I'm going to do an eye look. I have this palette here. This is the new NYX Swear By It eyeshadow palette. This is I guess it's 40 eyeshadows. That's a ton of eyeshadows. It was $35. It just came out. 0.03 ounces per pan, so that's pretty decent. Not a ton of product per pan, but a nice amount of product per pan, and 40 eyeshadows is a ton. It's really gorgeous. I haven't even swatched it yet. It has a really cool color scheme, a lot of warms, some cools, kind of everything you need. Let's see what the quality is like. Also, I like this packaging, even though it's kind of a little bit cheapy and it doesn't have a mirror. I like it because it kind of snaps open. You just press here and it snaps open, which is pretty cool. So this is what it looks like opened up. And I have no idea what the quality is like. I haven't even swatched any of these. I guess depending on the quality, $35 for a NYX eyeshadow palette is pretty steep, but depending on the quality, it may or may not be worth it. So I'm just gonna swatch a couple of these for fun right now. I'm gonna start with this like dusty mauve color, like the first color in the palette. They feel pretty smooth so far. So that's a swatch right there. And I'm going to go ahead and go into that fun yellow shade right there. So that's the yellow right there. Let's try a shimmer. So I'm gonna go into this like fiery, coppery reddish shimmer over here. So that's like a fiery coppery shimmer. That feels pretty smooth as well. Let me do one more shimmer. So I'm gonna do this kind of teal blue with a little bit of gold sparkle in it. So that's the teal. So you can see these swatches here. They actually feel a lot smoother than I was expecting them to feel. Pigmentation seems pretty decent, and they definitely feel very smooth to the touch. So I'm pretty excited to try these. So I have an idea for a look in mind. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. So the first shade I'm gonna go into is this cream colored shade right over here. I'm just gonna set my entire eye with that color. You can see it's picking up a lot of pigment on the brush. So I just kind of wanted to do like a little bit of a close-up. I'm not sure how well you could see that. There is a little bit of powderiness in that creamy shade. It doesn't seem too crazy, but there's definitely a little bit of kick up there. I feel like any good eyeshadow is gonna have a little bit of kick up. When there's like no kick up and it's really hard pressed and you have to like really scrape to get pigment, I feel like that's like not a good eyeshadow. So I prefer a little bit of kick up. I'm not sure. I guess some people are a little OCD about messiness, but that really doesn't bother me. I actually get a little happier when I see it has that. So I think the next color I'm gonna go into is the one right next to the cream shade. It's kind of like a little bit of a peachy transition kind of shade. So I'm just gonna start with that to really blow out my crease and really have a nice smooth transition. So you can see definitely a little bit of kick up and powderiness, nothing too insane. first shade went on really, really nice, you guys. It's like blended really nice. There's definitely pigment there for such a light shade. That is pretty nice so far. I'm going to go into the shade right next to it. So I've kind of like started just with these 3 starter shades over here. So I was in this shade and now I'm going to go to this shade right here just to continue to build up that area above my crease. Just a little bit more, and then I'm going to start playing with some of the color. So you could definitely see, for those being such light transition shades, there's definitely pigment there. And I feel like the blend is looking pretty nice so far, although with light shades it is harder to tell. It's with the darker shades we're gonna know if these shadows blend really well or if there's any patchiness. And now I'm gonna start to get really fun. This is the shade I wanted to play with, the one that I think is really gonna define my look over here. So this is kind of like a magenta matte, and I do like that there's a lot of mattes in this palette. It seems like, I think it's almost 50-50, but I do think there are a couple more mattes, so that's a pretty nice array of shades. This is the real test of how these shadows are gonna perform. So you can kind of see that there. So far, these eyeshadows are really nice. This isn't like a crazy, insane pigmented magenta. It's not like something like NYX Cosmetics or Kat Von D or any of those brands that do like crazy pigment. But it's a nice pigment. You could see for that magenta, it's definitely popping. So it's a little bit more buildable, which is nice, and it's not lacking in pigment at all. It's like very smooth and like a nice medium to full pigment. So I'm not sure if you could see there, I'm having a little bit of a sticking situation. I'm never quite sure if that's the eyeshadow or the primer I laid underneath. It's always possible that it's not that your eyeshadows are blending poorly, it's that the primer that you put it, you didn't blend it out perfectly, so it's kind of like sticking to the primer a little bit. Because that didn't happen on this side, it's happening a little bit on this side. So I'm gonna go ahead with a smaller tapered blending brush. This is the Cosetti D220. I'm just gonna use the brown just to create a little bit more depth on the outer V. About the same amount of kick up, just a tad. That brown is pretty pigmented. It kind of killed the magenta vibe a little more than I wanted it to, but that's okay. Blend some more of that magenta shade over top. Okay, so I have my crease done pretty much. This is pretty messy on the sides, but I'm gonna clean it up with concealer at the end of this look. I wanna go into one of the shimmers in this palette. I'm gonna go into this color right here, right next to the magenta matte. It's kind of, I don't know, it's like a little bit of a plummy, magenta-y, kind of sparkly, pinky shade. I'm not sure if it's really gonna perform without it being wet. I'll just, you know, start to see how it looks without any wetness to my brush. So I got some weird fallout from that magenta shimmer shade. It kind of came in like a little clump right there, which was a little bit odd. So you can see you definitely have pigment there. It's not, you know, really showing up too shimmery on the lid, but it's not a foiled shadow or anything like that, so I wasn't expecting crazy metallicness from it. So I'm definitely getting a lot of fallout. I really had like no fallout with the matte shades, but with the shimmer shade, there is definitely annoying fallout. And it's kind of clumping together. It's annoying because I actually did my base already. I'm going to use my brush wet and layer on top a little bit to see how that looks. The blend isn't bad. It's not the best blended eyeshadow I've ever seen. It's not terrible. It doesn't really look too patchy on the camera. It's just a little bit less than perfect. Some eyeshadows you feel like they blend themselves. These, you definitely have to work the blend. I'll say the pigment on these is pretty nice. Wetting the brush didn't really do much for this color. But one thing I will say is you see, I don't know if you could see that, but once it's wet, it got like pretty patchy there. So that's a little disappointing. Maybe I'm working them a little bit too much. So the next thing I'm going to do is I have these pigments, these new pigments from NYX. This is the Foil Play. It's a, I guess it says it's a cream pigment, so that's kind of interesting. Similar, very similar from what I see so far, what I swatched in store, to the Makeup Geek foiled pigments. So this one is like it's like a pink one, and it's called Booming. See it right there? It kind of like balls up a little bit, very similar to those Makeup Geek ones. So I'm gonna put this more on the inner part of my lid, and I am gonna wet my brush a little bit since this is kind of like a loose pigment. I don't want too much fallout all over the place. So again, a lot of fallout. This is a loose pigment, so it's more to be expected than with the eyeshadow palette. You can see the loose pigment right there. I'm gonna blend it a little bit more. It is pretty, and it definitely matches this look. It's a little bit darker. It went on a little bit darker than I expected, but it's pretty for sure. Going in like really gently with the brush, and I wet it, but I'm feeling the pigment fall on my face as I do this. Just a little bit frustrating. So I am done applying the pigment on the inner part of my lid. I wasn't too impressed with the way it went on, to be honest. This is a first impression, so I could have to play around with them a little bit more, but I just feel like there's like a lot of fallout, and it's not really very foiled. Like, it's just like a light shimmer. You can kind of see it there. And these and the shimmers in the palette don't really layer well. So you start out and it's decent, like, but once you try to intensify the pigment, or you wet your brush, it makes it more patchy, and it doesn't really build it up. It probably makes it better. It might be better just to use a lot of these products dry. I'm not really sure. Just use it dry and not try to layer too much. So I'm just gonna swatch this pigment Booming on my hand. It swatches really, really nice. Maybe I will try to use my fingertip instead. That might actually be better. A little bit better, but again, just so much fallout. So messy, oh my God. So yeah, these pigments, it's just not working out. I feel like it's very messy, and they're not as foiled as I would like. They're really not. It looks pretty nice on my hand, but like when you actually put it on the eye, that foiledness doesn't really translate, and it's just very messy, very hard to work with. I'm going to just highlight. I'm gonna use this like champagne-y shimmer right here, just to highlight my inner corner a little bit. So that shimmer didn't go on too badly. It's not the most popping champagne shimmer I've ever used. I don't really want to play with it wet too much right now. So yeah, that's the upper lash line. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to start to clean up my lower lash line concealer, and then proceed onto the lower lash line with some more eyeshadows. I'm gonna conceal very liberally on my under eye because of all the fallout. Just really try to hide all of that pink fallout, try to clean up that line. I always feel so much better once I clean up my under eye area. It just cleans up the look so much. So that is the under eye area cleaned up. I feel like it looks pretty decent. There's not too much pink fallout all over the place. And I was going to use this on the lower lash line, but to be honest, I'm not really wanting to do that. This is another one of the Foil Play cream pigments, cream foil pigments. This is in the shade Happy Hippie. So this is like a olivey green one. You see, like, these are just like so chunky. Like, this one didn't even like swatch out. It's just kind of like powdery chunkiness on my hand. I couldn't really tell in store. These seemed a lot nicer in store. Yeah, this is like such a mess. Do you see that? It's just like this like chunky powderiness. So that seems even worse than the pink one. I'm not even gonna bother like trying to use that on my eyes right now. Very pretty color, but just not much in terms of performance. So let's play with this palette a little bit more. The palette disappointed me less. It's actually kind of decent. What I'm going to do is I want to do something green on the lower lash line. I think I want to go in with this shade right here. It's a little bit of a shimmery, it's kind of like one of those mattes with sparkle in it. It's very subtly shimmery forest green kind of color. So I'm going to do that on the outer lower lash line. Again, the shade definitely has fallout. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit more with whatever's left over on my beauty blender. Just because there's like powdery fallout. In spite of that, it actually does look pretty on the lower lash line. There is a good amount of pigment on this color. So I think since I couldn't use the green foil pigment that I was going to use, I'm going to use the next best thing, which is this kind of olivey. It's a little more muted than what I was going to originally go for. You see right here. I'm going to use that on the inner lower lash line. Maybe for this one I will wet the brush a little bit. Hopefully that'll mitigate the fallout a little bit more. So that is the lower lash line. I'm just going to use this Cosetti D220 small tapered blending brush just to buff out the lower lash line a little bit. Okay, so that is the eyeshadow placed. I am just using the Subversion Eyelash Primer by Urban Decay. And for my mascara, I'm going to use the NYX Worth the Hype mascara. This came out a little while ago. I didn't get it in my last NYX haul that I got the palette and the pigments in, but I just figured I could use some more NYX. This mascara is okay. It's nothing, it's not really a favorite. It's just kind of mediocre. I really like the Ciate Wonder Wand. The Milk Kush mascara that just came out is pretty good. This one is okay. It's not bad. It's just kind of average, this Worth the Hype mascara in my opinion. Although I do think my lashes with the primer do look pretty nice right now. So that is the finished eyes. And on my face, I'm just going to use, again, I got this a while ago. It's not that new. This is the NYX Born to Glow Powder Highlight. And this is in the shade Stand Your Ground. I like this shade. I feel like it's a pretty unique highlighter shade. It's a little bit almost like a cool toned white, slightly silvery base with like gold shimmery glitter in it. So I think that's really pretty. It's definitely a glittery highlight and it's a little bit powdery. But again, I just like it because I think it's like pretty unique color just with that little bit of a silvery base but with the gold shimmer. And it definitely pops pretty nicely on the cheeks, but you have to blend it out or it does look powdery or it does look stripy, I should say. You see that highlight? For today, I want to try, this is probably meant to be layered on top of something, but I'm going to try it on its own. I feel like it goes pretty nicely with this eye look. I'm going to try the Shimmer Down Lip Veil by NYX, and this is in the shade Sweet Mama. This was the coolest looking shade that they had. So you can see that right there. Might be hard to see like the reflect. There you go. So it's kind of like a light sheer magenta with like blue glitter in it. It's blue translucent glitter. It's very, very pretty. So I'm excited to try this on my lips. I'm not sure if this is like a gloss or if it's just something that dries down, but I'm gonna find out right now. So that is the lip veil on my lips. I don't know if this is gonna dry down. It's like an interesting texture, like it almost feels like a gloss, but it's not, it doesn't have like that gel goopy feeling. It almost feels like a gloss that has like been like watered down. So I'm gonna just kind of let that, see if that sets, see what it does. It looks pretty, like on its own it's pretty. I like that. It's a very unique shade and I think it goes really well with this look. The last products that I got from NYX which have newly launched are these are cream shadows. So this one is called Woman of Steel and these remind me of the JCat. JCat has a very similar product to this. They're almost like ColourPop where it's like a cream but it's not necessarily a true cream. This is a lot like the J-Cat ones. These might be a little bit more of a true cream, as you see in there. So you can see that right there. That's really, really pretty. It's just like a nice reflective foil, silvery kind of pigment with like a touch of like a warm tone, not completely aluminum colored. And then the last thing I have here is Black Knight, which is also one of those cream eyeshadows. This is like super cool. Like, look at that. It's just this like almost like glossy black cream shadow. Yeah, this one's more like really creamy. These are pretty cool. Ooh. So that's the black one. You can see it's like a glossy, maybe a little bit of like shimmer to it, but it's definitely very glossy and very black. I'm curious to see how those would like kind of dry down, like how they would set. I'm definitely gonna do another look with these. So that's the completed look. So yeah, I think this is a nice look. It did take a lot of work to get here though, I have to say. So I just kind of wanted to run down everything that I tried today. The NYX Swear By It palette. Is it worth $35? I'm not sure it is. I mean, for 40 eyeshadows, I guess you could say, yeah, it is. I mean, this reminds me of the Sephora palettes that came out, and I don't think that there were as many eyeshadows in that palette, and that was like almost 70 bucks. A little more product per pan, but again, not as many eyeshadows. This quality of this is on par, if not slightly less than the Sephora Pro palettes. The mattes in this were very, very nice. They blended pretty smoothly. The pigment was pretty nice. Again, not the most pigmented, but the blending was there and they were buildable. The shimmers in this were okay. A lot of fallout. The mattes didn't have the fallout, so they weren't as great and they didn't seem to work as well wet. So this is a fun palette if you're looking for something with a lot of different colors on a budget. The color scheme is really nice. You have a lot of warm tones, which are kind of work easier on the eyes. They're a little more trendy. You also have your nice cool tones in this palette. There's color, but it's muted color. Someone who wants a more basic neutral color, someone who wants a pop of color, it's all here. So it's pretty cool. $35 is a lot, so use your best judgment. I'm happy I have it. I definitely am looking forward to playing with it and doing more versatile looks with it. These foil pigments were very disappointing. The lip product I'm wearing is very pretty, the Shimmer Down Lip Veil. It's like a lip topper, and it does feel like a gloss. It doesn't dry down, but it's very light on the lips, which is very nice. I would like a regular gloss to feel like that, like without that goopiness. It's just sitting on the lips, but it's like a very thin layer, and it just has that pretty like shifty color to it, the magenta with the blue. I think that's really unique and a really pretty color. And these cream pigments seem very promising. Again, I didn't try them on my eyes, so that's going to be a whole different story, but I think I will try them in a different video. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. Have a good one. Bye guys.